Worship, devotion to family, and reverence to God. Enjoy many more wonderful, joyous, and blessed years from your ever-loving wife, Barbara, the family, and all your friends, especially from my boss, Ghana's Morning Boy, Sherman General Kwame Sefakai, from Yao Obi Menu, but most importantly, your ever-loving wife, Barbara. Celebrating a great man, Dr. Tony Ortin Jesse, on the occasion of your 70th birthday. My colleague, Prosper Daduga Danielson, wishing you a belated happy birthday, Dr. Tony Ortin Jesse. And so this one is a special request from Dr. Nana E.T. Akuno Jr. For your own relaxation, Dr. Nana E.T. Akuno Jr. wishing DL Daddy Lumba a belated happy birthday. So to you, Dr. Nana E.T. Akuno Jr. Enjoy. Madam Beduka Echere from your beautiful children, Ajwa Bankwa Usu, Ajwa Obien Sante, Nanama Pukia Bankwa, and your grandchildren, celebrating you, Madam Beduka Echere. Ekia Boache Yadom, ABY, of the Multimedia Group. Area, happy birthday to you. Atik Mohammed, Executive Director, Mass Action for Sustainable Development Africa, MASDA. Clement Abeidu, Executive Director, African Center for Environment and Sustainability. Honorable Fatima Tabu. Mama so ya yi wa munyina edi. Na no fiada. Everywhere. OSP Ken Oforiata, Dominic Akurtenga Ayene versus Godfrey Yabo Adame. Oral and answer Okal. Any home command of pay. Article Honorable Fati so ewa ha. Me mo makwaba na fi ye mo enkomo. Atik.
Hello.
Machiminia.
Me juso.
Now what is say?
Ya me dia cha me na we.
Oh, nyanko pardon. Bako.
Da nyame ase.
Na weekend next say.
Ija, na me she me via. Bafo o so truth. Dey no.
Bafo ana. Na se bafo ompe wasem da. Ngongwa se unim.
I saw you.
Ozi dey.
Oso ohun base.
O ehun me o bibia, man ko bibia.
Wanko base kra.
Me look alike no hu ye na nyame.
Wantwam ho kra.
O David.
Wantwam.
Men kai dey ba min jindi.
Ba base o de unim ho.
Ye bibia ya ota kotina.
Aya me metako.
Ne base ne dia o. Obi enim.
I think we na say no pay.
It's close to my office nti nyame nwanwa so hu me dia be Friday no.
Okay. But weekend nankasa de we hu.
Weekend dey me mpie.
I see. Honorable Fati.
Papa.
It is say.
Nyame adome yo na say.
Yankopon adom. As a opposition na ka ho amahu mienu. Ana.
Emro.
Da bi mienu.
That's a magic.
Ka say 2025.
Oh, there be.
You are also can also composition as you be our quite
I think make 2025 na say December nka ho. December nyina so man hu no.
So.
But that December, okay.
So composition from 9th.
No,
9th
from
December.
no January. She still was the Minister for Information in December.
Honorable. Bibi aboko there.
Nyame adom, bibi aboko.
Yeah, the nyame ase. I think.
No.
E person me no free ase. Revocation of appointment ne hon sensem.
Yeah.
Last week ne can about FM. Omo a ye fa omo after 7th December.
Yeah.
And na ye ka say omo so omo share adwuma se September so aba ka ho. Say the na make ka hwe the Ghanaian publisher and the Ghanaian observer omo so abo ho amane anopai aba ka ho. Sa asemi atike anya ne den.
Me da say ne di kan ma ncha Republic of Gamaga for na mincha mamprogomani ya shofo ne yeti fo nyina. Now there is a major concern via 72 Mampenyine, the Minister for Defense in Nimansana Matwasukra. There are some brutalities ongoing in Wali. Enche ye kra na ya. On say soldier for the yenyina yenim juma eso muye. And as I say the juma omuye in Wali ni a near time. Look, I am not holding brief for Nkrofua Omodi sir to trust him by burning the bus and you know you can say hurting travelers in the process. No, I am not by this holding brief for any one of them. But say Obia Bonia, I am for Boni and corrective Bonio. Because you see, people are being shot at like indiscriminately in Wali by security agencies. And yadia ebwa. People are civilians here, bubu or more, ebimu, femu. Some get shot by security agencies. It's not the best. We say to trust them no. Now, if that is being done, now you also elect to brutalize innocent civilians. I think that you are worse than Krofwa. Yeah, investigations. You know, it is something that Bibia as a shame. You know, we cannot say the answer to the unspeakable act they allegedly committed. No, and it's soldier 4 will be unleashed into the Wali township to be beating people, you know, indiscriminately. And it's creating a great deal of panic and worry in that township. Look, I decry the Boku situation, but because Enuna has spilled over into Mamprugui, it tells you say Yanje Yan Swanwa, we might have a very serious problem on our hands, because if this degenerates into ethnic conflict, it's no longer a regionally confined conflict, and the conflict is not confined only to Boku. So see, it is spilling over. And a hard journey, so that this does not degenerate into a full-blown ethnic war. And Minjindi say it is in the interest of any Ghanaian. Says Bibi Sabisi, Miss near soldier phone Wali no any I mean CDS, you know, and COAS, I mean Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Defense Staff, Miss Rawam. They need to rein in the soldiers now who have gone to town and are doing Nyoma and Fatan. Mikasano, Wali for so Miss Remo, you cannot you can say allow sempo enyemuna muye ya. You can't even allow and participate in the kinds of things muye ya, for which reason I yedi soldier for eba. Say if you disagree with Obi and you identify with your tribesmen elsewhere, there are several ways we can go about this issue. You know, say yebe erective barricades and microfudruana ye emfatano. Look, it's Mampruzis are known to be peaceful people. Mampruzis what don't tolerate is to be taken for granted and I said to be oppressed. And they will rise up and defend themselves. But to start conflict by themselves, the Nyadia Mampruzis are known for. nti ne ye hu nansan de hadwene nti mampen yesrew curfew na wo dia to omuso no I say a mankrofo the opportunity to visit mayhem and brutality on innocent civilians in Wali. And he said, yeah, sure, Minister of Interior, everybody else who is involved and who has a say in the goings on in Wali, no, so young bibi. Having said so, sir, we dismiss us ne lay off see. Last week you can want them and Mika say if sir appointment see a year immediately after the MPP lost power, no, then there are many questions to be answered. And I spoke from my analysis was founded on two legs. Nedi Kain, the economic cost that such employment and as such letters na yedima nkrofunu would generate, and the second is procedurally no nyomu ye na no kwanso anu na say enye no kwanso. Oh, and I went ahead to advocate say, look, yen share cases no, yen share dismissal see on case by case basis. It be they have merit. As I say, it be process no start here no, na 6 months aba, but it just happened say the letters came after the election. Oh, and government is a continuum. Government is always in motion. Untimi nka say government must stop working because we have gone into an election and a particular political party has lost. Inti aban nyene ejuma. Obi a we win like who was going through a recruitment process. We bibia and aka say ebe man letter. And you know, jam logging is a permanent feature of civil service bureaucracy. Idea, I mean, obia anybody who has had a stint with either sociology or political science will tell you that one of the features of bureaucracies is that there is a great deal of red tape. Obiwa ye interview neutral letter no, it will take Nipano forever to write. Until Amika said the case must be looked at and the dismissals no must be looked at from the point of view of who deserves to actually be let go and who deserves to be considered. But I feel say majority of Nkrofo esi omunko vie me patch those who had their letters after the 7th December no. These are people who were beneficiaries of mass recruitment. And idea it's become a subculture in our politics. Anytime a party be losing elections, which means there's going to be a new administration. No much that recruiting be last minute. No, what you do is you are incurring cost and you are generating cost for the incoming administration, which cost the incoming administration has no clue how to shoulder. What has here? Nti ese share a whole year say deliberately no you lose election na shada I go create problems for the incoming administration and ebi mu yasa because they feel say opposition are yekui there will be backlash, people will be called out, fingers will be pointed at Nkrofo say moti honum no kra mo anya recruitment mo employment kra mo ankritibi. So they do that just so that they can save face when they get into a position. But I always say, look, you can't employment now. Government is fixated on creating employment only and mostly in the public sector. When we talk about efforts to reduce unemployment now, we're not talking about efforts to increase employment into the public sector. Already it's a huge drag on our finances as an economy. Employment, government's role in the creation of employment is you create that environment that will enable the private sector to do more employment and to do more recruitment. But Ghana had the government scores itself higher points when it comes to employment when it is able to recruit more people into the public sector. That is wrong. Yaka employment creation now, it is not about how many people we have taken to the ministries, departments or agencies. How many people has the private sector been able to absorb? That is how you measure your success when it comes to employment creation. And employment creation is a function of policy and government regulations. Say, cost of doing business are cost ro. To make sure that businesses are operational cost are cost ro no. Sometimes and that's why fiscal policy allows government to either engage in tax cuts or sometimes even increase expenditure so that private sector no omu produce e ho na bento omu. So sometimes when you do that, you inject incomes into the operations of these businesses so they are able to stay afloat and even expand with time. And expansion comes with the need for more factor inputs, especially labor, until they get to employ and all that. But here we mark ourselves and we score ourselves very high points when it comes to employment when we are able to get a lot of people into ministries, departments, and agencies. Until how well have you done with employment? Yes, you can fascinate records na share. Government agencies are required to present names of Nkrofo Omafa in the last period and so on. In the subject period. And no say government has missed it when it even comes to this whole subject matter of creating employment. But like I'm saying, so dismissal see me fuasu in one breath, but like I said, the dismissals and layoffs, should be situated in a certain context. Say why you foul just after 7th year? Not just say it was intentional, but there are people who processes leading to their employment start here na yentu abaye. Those I think abaye to me are considered, and there should also be an audit. There are places are heading Kokrokoo as our sector so it results in duplications. There are people who are supposed, more than Kokrokoo are supposed to be doing the same function. And let nobody tell me, say, 24-hour economy, when people are having duplicative functions, not just a 24-hour economy, no, they are running ships. They be, ministry, they are supposed to be working at the same time. 5 boy no obia kufi. And the function they are assigned, is a function that one person could have actually even easily performed. But again, me care about the huge burden public sector compensation. I can say the huge burden it places on your economy. Uko elsewhere, digitalization are key. It is reducing the dependence on even physical presence in some of these agencies to work. What is here? So it tells you say government should be looking at other ways to help the private sector create more employment. Because Uko ministry, see, it is in the days of John Keynes and following the Great Depression. Some of the things we are seeing today were valid because you needed to spare aggregate demand. So government needed to invest a lot more into the economy. And at the point, his suggestion was, so when you let them go and dig pits so that they can get paid and incomes can flow around in the economy. But we are not living in the 1940s, 1930s. And economics has since improved. What is here? And what we need to do is to empower the private sector. And look, when it comes to ideology, between the MPP and the NDC, there's no difference. These are all capitalist entities with different labels. Bakusi me social democracy, but is pure capitalism. What I say, and there is not much difference when it comes to the two in terms of ideology. And they both believe in the power of capital being in the hands of the private individual. And why not empower them to create more employment? What I say. And Matisse Bimususi Ombekoko, I think it's about time they tried and attested some of these things in court. But my strong belief is government is taking such decision on the basis purely of economics. Say you are giving us a cost, you prepare. There's no look. Government is working to create enough fiscal space. Omubai debt is unsustainable, revenues are lower, and they are also even projecting betiti and our cancel taxes be, which means your revenues are even going to be affected more.
What if Sankofu you money? You money the for show?
Then that is a crime. And the American simplicity. You see, if it is Samunkofi, but I strongly believe that it's on the basis of economics. Look, the engagement government had with IMF, some of the concerns are, and once the budget will be presented in March, one of the things IMF is presenting to them is you need to cut down on expenditures. What is here? And I am sure near Kokrokoo is one of the ways government is trying to cut down on compensation costs, which is part of more expenditures. No, they are also talking about the need to increase revenue. Oh, now Abaya promises on pay taxes be, and now we know the sources of your revenue. No, tax revenue, the sources are known. Until we be a free more. Yenyan who baby sa gap na revenue shortfalls now be created by way of, because we have collapsed some of these handles. Yenyan who baby other tax revenue be free aba to come and make up for such shortfalls. No, until Abai is in a tight corner. So Abai some oye near emfa pressure embe to omoso. Oh, until I strongly believe near Kokrokoo it is not because government is heartless. But I think procedurally, government has issues, and secondly, cost-wise, so Abai urging the kind of economy they want to manage and the resources available to them. Whether Ombetimi, Akoso, Etuang Krofuka, Abra, they could do without their services and so on and so forth. What is here? But if the plan is you or because they belong to one political party, then I think that would be a crime. I dare say that is necessarily not the case because their engagement with IMF, now IMF is saying government, and in fact, NDC for cry can once say monetary financing and debt financing, say Obama Central Bank, Abema Usika, you see when government presents its budget and there is deficit, what you do is you engage in borrowing. What is here now? And borrowing away, usually there are interest-bearing debts you go and incur in order to make up for the deficit your budget is giving you. But with monetary financing, Bank of Ghana gives you the money without interest. It's more like as a free money being on demand. What is here? Quantitative easing is one of the ways central bank does, your friends, and some monetary financing. IMF central bank mamusika. So look, government is tight corner unkan ye. Aben way is tough. And the media I would have expected subsequent to sad dismissal obi mecheche mu nientia government cannot absorb those numbers at this point in time. But ujani trust you allow people to read all kinds of meanings into your actions. Like you are suggesting, it is possible ye young crofu we need ebi muaba. What is here? I think the government needs to come and present some type of explanation as to why they did it. And I strongly want to believe it's purely economic. It's not like political, we nasi for. But again, you can't also rule. There are other dismissals I see, like not many of those, like recent ones in here, the directors need deputy directors and Bino, I like to think enusu politics kakra ewum. Some mass dismissals needed. I don't think is necessarily political, but there are some specific positions like director, deputy director, I think no dear as a politics kakra because the directive the chief of staff gave was specific to post 7th December recruitment. But some of these dismissals people have been in the job for years. And somebody needs to explain to the Ghanaian people near Air Kosui so that the speculations people are making in respect of these dismissals could be put to rest. Like I said, media mifuasu on the economic front. Anything beyond that, not just a bonnie. And I don't think it is government's intention to lay off a BIMO so they can bring others. Because one of the cardinal principles they stood on to win the election and said they were going to create employment. And it will be counterintuitive, you came in the name of creating employment only to be, I don't think it's because of political considerations. I largely like to associate with the thought, is because of economic reasons. And society because our economy is not in the best of places. Look, the economy is tight. And they need to make rational choices, especially Omankasa Ekofaba say, me say betting tax, cutting it off Minfuaso. as an economist. And look, sometimes taxation is not just to raise revenue. Sometimes it's meant to correct some ills in society. Removing emission levy, for example, Mimfuasu. Look, Ghana must position itself towards the green transition. We want to decarbonize. What do? You need to encourage people to use more electric vehicles. And if people are paying emission levy on their fossil fueled cars, they'll begin to think about the need to switch to EVs and the rest of it. And also, Mimfuaso say will be free. But that is the plan of government. That's government's policy. What is here? And it brings in its wake revenue shortfalls. Our moon plan here. Until government is not in the best of places. But like I said, if the reasons for such dismissal are beyond economics there, then there might be a problem.
Martin, there might be a problem. Atika Mohammed and Etienne Kano. Honorable
Nana,
Mami,
you are not paying my mencha or be na mencha, mebratic, and Ghana dishing you know, Majabra or Muti, and no more share on social media. Our conversation where it calls for a lot of reflection, and baby, a public service, and a civil service abidru. Of course, your group of people be or mokase o your president say o aban we free mo ye pamon crofo aban we free me pamon crofo obi be man examples from the year 2009 obi so be man there from 2017. But in the past no ye kase o aban free so amomo pamon crofo ebi obi be kase o ebi a public toilets bi si baby obi si we na gigi scan ti me koyi o ma free na me ma ko gigi ebia abayasa asibia na access some assets bia at the local level yeah the rent and now you give it out a generate revenue men so me kotena no na magije na media gibisika. But over the period it appeared say when it comes to the public service and civil service proper, they were immune from some of these political exposures because Nana ansa na yebefa in the civil service and our public service no obi beka say oh we mu nyina recruitment no just say wudi mpanyin bi but mind you minister ntimi boleta maw pacho wo ya we sir even omo ye adwuma in state owned enterprises say sir SOE no person ye recruitment na so omo budget no more bibia no beso we are they still to some extent have to involve the Public Services Commission to even interview the prospective employees and make a determination say omonkrata sem no bibia di say in the civil services office of head of civil service involved in the entire recruitment process local government service. Until Kabeka say the public service jobs are over the period a structured system by law and no dear and just so much affected by regime changes. But this time around, I think it's a conversation now be brave because the skill no eso. Because say in 2017, now the current president, Ebra Lucy election. He had concerns to say, oh, free abamu, then Crawford be or honoma, yeah, buy ya be your body, and it is such a bad precedent. Something of that sort shouldn't happen. If people are working within the public space, they should not be exposed to some of these political things. And to Obiawo opposition, Yedim Johnson, we know the right thing. But as soon as they hold the power, the story is different. In fact, even before the election, the president mentioned say, "Oh, ebimu enenam ekeka say oba we ma ya recruit omo obepa mu omo we ma ya recruit omo obepa mu omo ono de on yes sir in his administration on yes sir." But it has happened. I see because the president who has the executive powers of the states guaranteed by the constitution only to be ni one man the chief of staff instruction ama natural krata abeshe obia or that public institution and no announcer minister kutu pase obia yafa na juma after 7th December bonhwehwem na bia muyi omo. Is that not the case? This is the situation I think say is very worrying. And I'm trying to be as dispassionate and as objective as I can in this conversation. Because and now power, now opposition, or now opposition, or now power. And in your can be a table, no better matter, and you should be able to stand by your words. The fact is that at the Ministry of Finance, Omoka on record say after 7th December, not January, the mandate of President Akufo-Addo ended on 7th January 2025. But the Ministry of Finance, almost say after 7th December 2024, not a single financial clearance was given to any public institution to recruit. So this argument about no money clearance, it was not covered under the previous budget, it is completely flawed. Let me give you an example. An institution like Exim Bank almost at a recruitment process as early as March of last year. They did the interviews in June. As at September, they be when your letters of started. As at October, they didn't kick a whole no started Juma. Say, although the directive that came says and after 7th December, they have sacked people whose employment, your friend is on more commitment and also more letters started as far back as September. And these are facts, so on the face of the record, because a Public Services Commission and the alcohol now pay evidence of interviews or for some of these SOEs you won't get it. These are facts. Number two, some of the institutions, especially for the security sector, they advertised the forms. They advertised that they've gotten financial clearance. They advertised the forms. They announced where they were going to do the physical selection. They announced where all the processes were going to start. Even under the Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service. Health workers, their entire recruitment process was advertised. And even if you think say be foul because of political consideration, so obi NPP full soldier no onye na esidi ya ye fa na esefo a ye ntimi mfa wo ko shem because who the paper. So at the end of the day, no, share case by case, institution by institution, clearly, I get the impression, I get the impression, say, the government is trying to please the rank and file of their party, their foot soldiers, and tell them that we have the power. We told them that we will come, we will do this, and except for some of the appointees, heads of institutions who retired. We're still at post, and they saw your question, way or your Safuma for but your talk or say a pamono, no resigning. But this is the see do a was Siga. He was in Siga for more than 7 years, or those also say a pamono or betany abo wedding. So there is this deliberate attempt, say, who say obi or affinity with 10 people. I've heard.
I was told said they were actually drawing attention to him by meaning say if
I'm reliably informed say he's been pressured to resign. You know, and clearly say obia sorry I don't attempt picture but to social media. As I see what public institution where NPP ni monko pamono. And this issue about 7th December appointments does not even come in because we are talking about people who have even worked in the institutions for months or years. What the baby to said nurses so and our health sector workers. Omo recruitment in a generic, a batch, and anya sality. Nipa da go through the entire process. Obi otifia ondi sika. Ya posono, waje na letter, wako akopɛ dan, wako han. Ebi nipa na ɔte Accra, ye de na akɔ hambile. Wako gye dan, wasesa de nneɛma nyinaa de akɔ akɔduru hɔnom. Wa settle in, ye starting to an nkampo. O say ede asade a ye ntwamu because aban asesa na osa betrefie. If there are some individual cases with respect to institutions and our individuals, not based on the evidence, say the institutions did not have financial clearance, the said recruitments were not captured in their budget for the year 2024, And because of election laws, all of a sudden, Obada sorry no packing the place. Who will complain that you are sacking them? I won't complain. But this generic thing, young institution, be I suspect so NPP in the young no, that is a very worrying trend. That's it. If we sit and say it is okay, dear, that is fine. But the point is that sending in so toy and chilling and sad we are one could so ebeye. So on that issue, I think say it is simple. On the other hand, Ebiana Nkrofobi or where they are unduly removed. Maybe a lawyer ni Sabi told me I'm a court. I will encourage as many people as possible. Yeah, you without justification. Yeah, you when you are confident, say you have evidence of going through due process, there is no basis for your removal, and even if they wanted to terminate prematurely, the necessary compensation was supposed to be paid and it wasn't done. I will encourage as many people as possible to go to court and go and test the law on some of these unlawful terminations. Until na media kakra mbeka on that issue no.
Yo. Honorable Fatih Abubakar na yete nenkano. Mamema Ora Clement Abidu so Akwaba. Obeni Akwaba.
Ora mejo so na mumpo mu.
Adom na nso e.
Me adom mo dia che kwa.
Ye de radi ase.
Ye mesre and pay ya say mankopa yi na traffic no chain ntino. Etie fo mfancha me. Enya
hwe ni nyina ka abrabo no.
Yo.
Entina na atika wo ma atik kra bejaw. 2025 idiot.
I take a very strong exception to this guy.
In this room.
Oh yes.
Exception about your timing in this room.
Oh. Not just immediately we have a valid. No cry.
Oh. Nana crab them grab 2 minutes.
Or no obey. Maybe when the chicken. So we will do myself.
Okay.
And Jimmy too.
But I think maybe so me no era but me so me bejao.
Where you want my papa?
Mama got my mama directive for.
In fact, no, father never directive.
Anyway, Zabedu.
Minia.
Last week na ye can be. And there by Exim Bank for so almost nam nipa 16. If our more juma, almost started juma September. In fact, in October, almost salary started by almost that payroll so almost pay slip near the nyina ewo ho. Friday almost pon adwuma yes ma almost mabium near you omodi. Fani nyina ka the small as a hold on na nti wa dwenkyira no pay.
Yo, when you want to pay madam asena me de in check as so ama etie for mutie wo Ghana he na nkankan me busan for mo abrodunko na nya fe Kokrokoo abra seb kwa mankase me din check as mo mu na I'm say I'm boy next week Tuesday so me na na free e be din na watch into we dey busan for mo no mabo yeah bon kai say bro good morning you did say e be din komo
I think a crowd the one ne say
enye you enye you say
mumie no mo say the difference that is about ku tiri ho pa
or start is all tons as you
just o ti hu pa dia that is o tons as
so
anyway me di ma de ko baby me be ba no na apa pressure ko an
sao nyame wo ho
e bi mu sori na mo di prefix na to mo di enim
easy from doctor ba heart wo ho nyame wo ho
Nana, I'm say, and pay me banamiti honorable name Atik. Na, Unkoma, I'm saying I did no. Ne quandine Sunday. If she masisa oracle do Ghana hire, just there, you want semi brody bisa a band painful. Na, yet see when Adrian Paul. Na nsusunya wopede ozutu anamor bi wo sisiara nkankankan oba no abana kasa ne reset agenda osi ozerba na de ozaba ishe Ghana ha hen liba issues and the employment issues are today my honorable Keno brother home na as a democratic state yes the constitution is the adwumaze which is the mayor baby ano or the ye twa fapem papa yes to ho dem roba ya obiara botu mezedo na obiara so botu mate ase there anamo biara obiara rutu no na de aban rutu no sebi obnam mbrakwando no zutu dam anamo no Ghana ha eban hen labor act ada de hen mbra is the hwe hen workers na employees na labor do am the hin labor act 2003 act 651 na mepeda mejina dam mbredo na mekasem kakra me lawyer ni zina so mkenkan amatase na mejiz there say me ye worker na dam employee na dam nkomwe of famoho another wa kama mo tibia no dem me Ghana yi na sebi omutua to na mo wo kwando dem ye djuma na dem wo right dem ye djuma no se mbrana was a fam no dem mbrana so na mezo bom ho ban wo as a worker za no Jesus say asemi dem ba or there ye hwe what the law says mbrana kan na ye hwe na yezu hu djuma dem broti menua am there erika say ye ka there imba no kure djuma FIDA and I yoda FIDA the chin was in the nessa can termination contract. Na anya biara wo henum bremu no eba sam na oka for termination ho. Say e read the Labor Act now o kan pempen dey ansa na baka da obi nkofie nkatena fie no. Or there was in kan pon man notice and dey e bonin kai to ho dey. Osimesi start bobo ho Sunday na watchori be another bosum or the hemi ye be you we fi edwuma another edwuma no obi fi wonsa na e man notice isa so man nchirema obeda ho de sentri nti na edwuma no sisare me den me you we fi another renu ye biem nti say impa no kwa edwuma ifida anya biara yoda no orokwa no yimde obeyi na ezi azechi obeyi na ezi na azechi impa no be na sende edwuma no sisare we fi wonsa me ye biem another nkan hu biem a which is there wambra kwando no ama oya how kakra o sande yimpa here at least 30 days notice na o de sese no ho na otum oya den opa bi odintifa na mpo no ansana bamma dam bed take them decision no there me pede ikofia na dem pede me terminate to appointment no or there is the same tra yimpa no yi na ezi no ezi man mo otena ho ase wa Ghana mbrem no menua mbrana kasa at 651 wa kaka nsem bia se ipede yubiza or there imanyimpa no ohun another owo employer no imhu ozikan osinde workers incompetence or lack of qualification there yimpa no a ori edwuma no ehwe ne ahokan na de edwuma no ori na ahoze no onsoenyi another ahoze no ondu hoye yimpa no ye competent enough onyi capacity no the minti is be easy and as there be a qualification another character samna ne background was be no it's a similar issue man hu there onyi edwumako na ori no onyi no mfa na akade o san dem say entry no edwuma no mejiz there wo mbrem no me pede me den me yi wusinchen sanye dam so a no mbre na eche there o de inya ginedu bi makade osimesi ana obentin dam yipi America na asemi wa ya zibia o tiambra we edwuma no mu me yebaka the proven misconduct inti nisu ne ban bi another nenziye bi we edwuma mu no wa kwetia mbra na another mare hwehwe de order ozi edwuma no daminti se wa fom za no epede iyi nezi onumpo no sebio as a human society which is there there were so many ways yes misconduct is edwuma bi o ha kwa order won na nimpa no kor ebien ibasa ansa na fi se epede iyi nezi a ezini na za bakaka ho inti sadam ze me bia ma kan so onye edwuma another onyi ho a ibotum zi ejina do na ize yi nyipaniza na ono ebia bakade wo mbrem so no bibi ebesu nyimpa no kwan bia bakade legal restriction a dem azuko na wesu nyimpa no kwan no oruntumma kwan ma nyimpa no nkwado nyi edwuma de ebia wakaya azibi otiem bro baby anade waka bibia ogu nyimpa na nyimifi na ogu adwuma na nyimifi na wombra kwan do sisi na hu de dem azeko na nyimpa na akaya no or restrict another osunu kwan de obekodo no wa ye adwuma na bekeda o san dem say trinity me yiwe sinchana dem ma twodo na nye adwuma no nti America ka san de say ehwe Ghana mbramu na owo de nyenya ginadu bi yeze manyimpa no ansana akade riye no ezi unless the nyimpa no position owo no oye public honorable oye offended onye within the civil servant spirit and the act no on chichire no today bi abeka the CEOs na onye appoint ministers and the ones who do how they pay order call. If those exceptions are not there and they are there na say or you just the employees are another workers are ya for honu adwuma worry adwuma as abo Ghana no obey fe na obey no betel so there nka se pede import them ni iza ihwe mbremu no ma all there eye ansana yimpanezi anya da ma no ma honorable kade or there who are we in is no court na no they may have a case. They may have a legitimate case that wouldn't waste when you abandon court today. Son, Saint Ambrano Cafa workers, another hand employees, young to know. So the man went to traffic and was unknown. Here's where the abandon court. Na say, Obandam, na pray them who to them no or commune whole case. Na ya quayana yebe. Na de biano or mana na yezi who is reservoir. Na Merbanam the menu at tea can't sembia. I think they are very important so the hina yashana yajun huyin. Abanis na one hour from a drum December 7th and beyond. Here na him there December 7th and Israeli nano na NPP abanu efido. Inti abanu bombremu no or the OCC no na bring back the oil transition no or hand over Ozma NDC. After 7th December, the question is the government still legitimate? Bombremu no or the one abanu the one wo MPP abanu up to 7th January ana. Na aban wo hokwan de o fankrofo aban wo hokwan de ozi policies ba aban wo hokwan de o kodo obuma no kapem 7 general oba hand over zama aban fofo na if the answer is yes which he name there or yes that then we need to be very careful and very careful there but sure o sana wa to abere na o sana aban elusi ntino bibia ho aban butume aye ana na anye biara sa aban lusa omano yewie Yechado, nothing goes on again until the new president no Obaba na. Into say after 7th January, 7th December, no sorry. Na see a few there. There were legitimate reasons the order you should share recruitment why ye tell my money account audit no. Na who the abandon fan crofo all right. Now so one hour for me. Ozi can you can ya interviews before this who biara no ye MPP yin. Mo who biara no ye MPP yin. Mo yusum de obi mo so ha oye ndisi yin obi so ha onumpo no onye MPP onye ndisi oye Ghana yin nyame aye na doma no so ne saka edwuma bi a orba abaye yen na enyim issues of unemployment awo krom ha nti se obi bre obre no ho obre na ozoko no ho na se me na adom mo onye bibi kakra no so ozebo twetwe no ho na se by virtue of the abana senti or there yimpa no ohwe dem bre na wa bre na am the obeye ahmato kakra into really no if sayertion there economic reasons there abano orisha sika sembi abano orisha sika dem obeye abotum ni expenses akofom na say oninti dem kofo was sack ho a no no American there yen a whole a total audit of the public sector. We send the one hour for her in 2016, 1 hour for her in 2018, 1 hour for her in 2020. Nyawe na way effective at the workplace. Nyawe na way competent enough for work there. They are doing so well. Nyawe na what make there. I mean, Sabita for Jejuma warrior no hono or the welcome. We need to do a good audit, but just beyond the December 7th.
But what of the Ebimo can say no crese na aban no o pepa. So we fan go for adwuma ne ade a watwen ya wa fan go for after December 7th I will lose aba unim yie pa se enye umpo na abetu omoka aban foforo a oban onu mu ye mo na transie onis campo a wode ba te sanka ya adwen papa so a adenti na wo be fan go for adwuma mu after we lose election.
In governance, in development, or a continuity, you institutions na them crofin na wa communal. Their institutions are well function, whether NPP or NDC, another abanwe. Into the question really is, those institutions no na at that time na recruitment record we hear na. So if a health sector, for example, na say if a nurses the situation when the nurses deficit ayawa. If for example, abaneke the though na mrifido susampazi now so me audit another me assess the health sector no we needed a lot more nurses at that point in time union nurse ejuma it's not about year December 7th and January 7th it's about the health of the people into at that point no yeah gap analysis no na say if you hear more nurses even as no so ban kwanda order of nurses na if you work ejuma na wa hwe amanfo okrum hade into or there yet today I don't know if it's about the needs of all the institutions that you can in some record that if say audit of these institutions okay answer na for them crop you pa na way adwuma ho were they enough what were the resource needs in these institutions into resource needs na no on na ya feel another there were no need na yazibi abakaka ho we need to have a comprehensive assessment of this situation now on kaya today just for the sake of political sake to know to anomorabia or address the critical issues because I don't know if it on bia ampara na some institutions will have we hear nyimpa bi waka fill gaps and waka fill offending nyimpa bi a wo hiam wa ye adwuma into say them assessments no yen na say yeba na yakada just because of they work from adwuma after December 7th no they don't fit to be there. I think but we move discussion away from one kasa wo intention another adwene papa ebia na wono away from that no was ekesibo no Sunday I don't know if it or no yen na yim there what to about December 7th Ghana for your to about December 7th in December 7th na says the one year appointment after December 17th na no obi ankwa you expect the ordinary Ghanaian to think that ya sanso ya baby politics na ya sanso ya record no MPP fido is them not is MPP food na wonko say antomo ancheche man Ghana for Saturday century tell me can there be economic reasons for to Ghana chechem to hende figures ni the more confused they don't adapt to economic contribution at the same time no we'll put extra burden on our fiscal space into because of that no and the more them yetwa it obona cheche man them chechem no koda intase no oyedwuma but say ebana ebaka no try to hode yeah, for one another banner for December 7th or after December 7th. Into just because of that, no mum, them robber ya Ghana for so ye be hon tase. Them robber ya here so ye be them saints are yet to abamahoni there pede reset economy no. Ye pede njema bisesa wo krum ha. Ye pede politics bebrebe no odan dan okrum ha. Ye pede dam etim na akam na de bia yakọ na yaba oma no kwado no osesa. Then on that yesan so yakọ back to the old ways of doing things. First no yaba aban bi ba na we sinchen we ban we sinchen. Oma yen fa a new approach yen famra. If there is a need for us to take a comprehensive audit, share yen public sector na kasa no or your problem. Ghana and public sector institutions is a big problem. He na him there. Or one of the areas are on development and the hen umpuntu no. Okay, chikakra. O Sunday yende ne start ye kan ho asem. There were a lot of public sector workers. Now so productivity no. I mean on said that he na him. These are discussions free tete. Rollins Nabredo as a former President Kufort nde oyenkoma yezi into say you feel there in public sector you hear an absolute reset or cleaning yen to hebo yes let's go down to the basis yes assess another audit yen review the entire public sector now yen share how we can restructure it now say employees positioning and I don't how you if you one institution to another. I mean, you clean the system. Not them resets and you can use juma. Then so be it. But if you have scratch surfaces, nah, you have for Kakrebio, for December 17th, sack one. Do you need other workers to come and replace them? another your sack one and phobia with them institutions. I mean, if we go on this tangent now, what them, in society here, you expect no, I don't know if it's on some honorable cano. NDC will go one day, MPP will come, and they will come and follow the same story. They be an to the hinge and Jericho, and it will help us as a country.
Mate, Ura Clement Abeidu, and Ote and Kansas, and Kokrokoo no aso egusua utie. Na Yenya Kenneth Obeng, the master planner, Hello FM news editor. Ken ene eye wawoda. Kenneth Obeng, yema happy birthday. Nyankopon enka ho. Na Edu Awoda Eme Kenneth Obeng, the master planner. Good morning, Nanaya Okese. The argument that the last minute employment will create additional costs to the incoming administration is not accurate. Let me ask you a simple question. What budget is the current administration spending from? Is it not that of the previous administration?
No, it's not true.
If your answer is in the affirmative, then it means the so-called last-minute employees have been catered for in the budget, and therefore it cannot be an unforeseen cost for the new administration. Sometimes we need to set the record straight. Regards to my dear sister,
negative, so
Honorable Fatih Abubakar, and the Gambaga Prime Minister Atik Mohammed. Kwampoku CID. Number 6, Florida Street, Bantama.
Government is not spending from the previous budget.
The appropriation on
yeah, on account.
Okay.
Was it? Did you say no?
Appropriation one
No. You see, the last fiscal year ended in December.
November, December. Okay.
What you saying? This is a new budget, and it's not. And at the time you were recruited, and your budget we no recruitment no.
Okay. Mate. Okay. Mrs. Ophelia Osei Entry, outgone matron of Twansi Senior High School, said ne ewa oda ukrundo for say yama happy birthday. Na Yankopon enshira pa onne mani nyina edwase ensa da. Kana, there is a video going viral that exposes JDM's intention. He promised not to sack any Ghanaian government worker. Lastly, Kadna, you have been vindicated for exposing the OSP because it seems all the neutral senior lawyers in Ghana, except the NDC, are lambasting the OSP. Clearly, he goofed. Kojo Edu Pakon Ewo Achim Esumu. Kadna, those whose appointment have been revoked will be replaced with the NDC members. They claim these appointments were made by the previous administration to reward party members, which is false. Where is the Shraj boss, Joseph Whittle? As a beneficiary of last-minute appointment, his silence on this human right violation leaves much to be desired. Samuel Brian Boabing and Awo Shi. Musa Abatwa Ewo Asawase. Musa Nanse Uchotin Pao. Musa. Now, the revocation of last-minute political appointment is absolutely in order. If these vacancies genuinely existed, why wait until losing an election before rushing to fill them? This practice is not only unethical, but also undermines the principles of good governance and accountability. The Constitutional Review Commission must take critical action to address this loophole by making provisions that prevent outgoing government from making opportunistic appointments that serve partisan rather than national interest. Musa Abatwa and Oduwe Ebeto Eso. Okay, so I'm baffled by some of the reasons people are offering in support of the revocations. Isn't it the NDC that promised to employ every single youth when voted for? If there is no financial support, then what business has the NDC and John Mahama in governing this country? Samuel Pine, and Odiwe say Abba. Employments are done by organizations based on financial clearance from the Ministry of Finance. It will be in the best interest of the current government to cross-check with the ministry whether they issued letter of clearance or not before they continue with revocation. If they qualify, to do the job, why sacking them? This president will one day come back to hunt everybody and the NDC administration, for which they will pay a huge price for. What happens to the 24-hour system then? Or they simply don't understand their own slogan. Jesse Wako, and what do we say? Ebaye. Professor Kingsley, Professor Kingsley Nyako, Kwadaso MP, says, "Happy birthday to my brother, Kenneth Obeng, the master planner." News editor, Hello FM. Master planner, Mautrin Kawate, is a very hard-working gentleman, champion producer, Ken. Nipa Manabroso. Kenneth Obeng. The sweeping aside of all Ghanaians employed after December 7th by John Mahama-led NDC administration is very much akin to the King Herod's order for all babies in Israel to be slaughtered, thinking he could catch the baby Jesus in the net. But in the end, baby Jesus survived, and innocent babies got killed. Food for thought. Justice Abeku Newton Ofe Ena Onososo Edi we see Ebabetoso. The second coming of President John Dramani Mahama is a catastrophic adventure for the Ghanaian youth. He promised us jobs through the 24-hour economy, so-called one job, 3 people, and 3 shifts. Today, he cannot even manage and pay only 1 shift personnel. Now it is 1 job, 1 go home. So sad. Master Planner Junior, anyway, Ifri can tam po. Okay, all right. My main article so now I think you go around to it. Any other issue I person touch it and pay na in the next 7 minutes. Never see from the uncle.
Yes, that's it.
But I think but just a minute, Mr. Wam. I was for so be and na say we fear na single room self-contained and I say chamber and hall self-contained. No fresh number and pay agent be a single room self-contained and I say chamber hall self-contained. If you wrap it and I'm a fresh number na you know any and so directly. Yempese ebefa agent be aso. Ntisebe ya asembi e hono na yakano anymore nim. A single room self-contained and I say chamber hall self-contained. Onya bi ewo abeka tesano abelenkpe and I say kokomlemle nipa na nibeje ho pa 024 009 4770 024 009 4770 024 009 4770 and 055 361 8779 055 361 8779 055 361 8779 and 054 323 0733 054 323 0733 single room self-contained and I say chamber self-contained unya bi ewa belenkpe and I say tesano ana abeka and I say kokomlimle nipa no na ni ebeje ho pa adik
that's it. Me perceive me can't always been some me and maybe just touch a bit on the reparatory justice your man being Kokrokoo Africa Union Summit on media look obia there are allegations around you in respect of corruption and related matters. Before us to say you should become after and now whichever agency is clothed with the power to investigate what's or investigating. Look, I say Utia says Ghana for to Abano in 2024 on because of Numa Miensa and IB. One of it was a heightened perception of corruption. If Abanya etiswi one on the basis and one of the reasons upon which people made the determination say omuna eso mu form the next administration no corruption I think there is that expectation say ombeye bibi afa ho and the allegations and concerns of corruption no they were relative to Kokrokoo no muti abemu nti why if you are anybody at all who there are suspicions of sins are against you and there are suspicions you committed some sins I think yeboa na those things are investigated and possibly prosecuted. What you say? And I am not for a minute going to say ora kenafuraja no huson there be that. I strongly believe he has questions to answer. Whether those questions he answers eventually end up in court in the form of prosecution is another matter. But I strongly think there are questions he needs to answer for his stewardship at the Ministry of Finance. But having said so, the OSP are created, and this is not the first time I mean make him. We have created a monster. Maybe not the office per se, the office of special prosecutor, even though increasingly by dint of poor performance and by reason of their records there is that increased call for the abolition of our office. But I think that the office by itself, if you look at the act now, it was well intentioned. If you look at section 3 of the act, the functions are clear: to investigate and prosecute allegations of corruption and corruption related matters as they pertain to the Public Procurement Act and the Criminal and Other Offences Act and so on and so forth. Well, until the intention for the creation of the OSP very good. The Nipana, the human resource now to give meaning and effect to these provisions,
information.
More deliberately ignore you.
Point of information.
Point of order. This was information.
And the point of
seeking information.
So I am coming on point of information. I think
I have not recognized.
No,
your intervention.
Why? Papa na press
will see you sitting right across him now.
William
anyway, that's
I say. Judicial service no more.
Yeah.
Or catch it obey press conference last. Okay, all right.
And it is factual, say Papa, since Obai he has never secured any conviction anywhere. Watch us here. And this man lives like an Arabian king at our expense. Yakoto bulletproof cars, luxury cars, Amano. Watch us here. The input, how much money we have invested
and not the Gambaga king.
Gambaga King, well, maybe the standards are a bit higher for Gambaga King, but he's at the level of an Arabian king. And also crying that form. Look, luxury bulletproof cars. And I have to me. You see, when you say, Papa, one must be born number. You are coming to pursue who are accused of corruption, and you want to live like people who are beneficiaries of corruption. Because Nipa or Konya corruption process, he wants to live big and large. Our special prosecutor wants to match them. And you expect him to secure any conviction? When you say Papa, and Yadi,
but I think also because there be Obia send Osibon brand and San or Tier. Make I said
you should be driving in
for instance
in gold plated cars.
I think Tamane won't
oh no power kit will be near the Amawa.
I think time and they won't lose. Make I someone now or critics or more capacity.
And because Mika wants them to to the cantonment to September station shoot. If I just shoot Papa, we cry shed a blazer and look at the normal camp. Who you are supposed to be pursuing Crawford who are alleged to have robbed this country, and you want to match them in the way they appear.
Because Paul say me do Roman for honor. Me boy me bra say Roman for say be menya Roman for no makasa.
So Nejuman say he wants to be having engagements, dinner parties with people accused of corruption. Is that what you're saying?
So that he can get to understand them and know what they are doing.
His job is not to understand criminals, and alleged criminals. His job is to investigate and prosecute them. So you see, Nyawuke is exposing the very outcome. The man wants to understand them instead of coming after them. But Nyami can say, all the cases, Labianca case here, because he say,
I know you will be sure or some friend.
Exactly. Madam Cecilia the Pakizi, Ekosi saying,
Uncle Sihui.
I've a later, or no, he didn't have enough evidence to prosecute.
Or sister or a mistake, none or non unnecessary prosecutors our case.
Into the initial grandstanding now, no, you know. What him say? Case no buying. Oh, you press conferences. Akasia. Kasab bebre. What is here? So this man, look. Let me tell you. The guy has become all kinds of things. Look, Pape, Onu, he does excellent at PR than he does at the law. When it comes to the pursuit of cases in court, Onya deal, but with the man platform say, come and tell us your frustrations and come and create tension in the atmosphere. He will do it excellently. Or you are not to him account. So no dear, or young Kanuma, obey your bit. If you know you can't do it, go home. You don't have to wait till say Rabbi, your tenure is up. Go home. Look, and that is one thing about public service. Ubana who said, look, Ejuma idea mami, esu me. And I'm not getting the kinds of outcomes. Yedi mami say I should come and get to know. Master is the best and honorable thing to do.
I'm a fatia stressa.
No, I don't cry because Papa and one. Oh yeah, or format be. Papa, he's not working. No.
Settings
Unkwa. Papa no nye juma.
How?
One action shenanigans are obey.
There is shenanigans.
Obey declaring people fugitive.
The man is telling you what he's doing.
At the end of the day,
no. I think you can't say settings because you. What can't you say? Or pay for your touching. Papa na jane. Onya ne day.
Penachino. And so into media for moon and bit magic over that.
No, it is important. So Magana for you who say Papa.
You see, you need to investigate up to a certain point.
He has gotten to that point where he now needs the man in presence. No, I
wouldn't say in criminal law. He's not bound to cooperate with you. Overhead is not bound to cooperate with you.
But he wants to arrest him so that he use that option.
If you want him to be repatriated to this country, go and secure a court order and do so. Look, this you are seeking his cooperation and he's not bound by law to cooperate with you. You are accusing him. What is here? He has every right not to cooperate with you. If you feel strongly about your case, proceed to the court. And in your way, as saying, say Papa ni a fugitive, and you know it sounds highfalutin. I think
it's also from the highfalutin.
Oh, guy. Mami, OSP has me hear me.
Gambaga for brofuni.
Oh, say gambaga for dear. You na brofune start here and what is it? But mu de no mu ti brofu no mu German for. Anyway, what be ka brofu akese say. Look, Mustafa Hamidi, you have not even written to invite the man, much less start an investigation on him. Yet you stood there and said, "Sir, you are investigating him." How can you say you are investigating me without even inviting me?
I think I don't special person that was a man.
Nejuan, I have issues with his work, not him or no minimum. But Nejuan, and I've started. Look, Mr. Sekan was and he's vindicating every claim I've ever had and I made about him. Say, Papa, on one number, he's actually a cost to us.
Really?
Oh, he's a cost to us. Look,
and there's an for directive, maybe. So
you see, the unfortunate thing is that the act makes his tenure, no?
Exactly.
You know, secure in a bit, 7 years. And look, unless on grounds of incompetence, I think he has demonstrated more than enough incompetence for us to even get him out. But the petition man, kran am buy. What does he?
Money,
me can't be before says ya musu. You are crying. You brought him when there are calls for his termination. You say, oh, there is no prima facie one. But there is demonstration of incompetence. Obia yedu but since ubaye, not even one person. Now go jail. Young got here or see there's this grand judicial conspiracy against him. And obeye yaso besum akwe was settings. Aso besubina won Ghana for muhumi mobo na judiciary na kutiame. And you see that as corruption is you are fighting corruption is fighting you. You know, creating the impression say, oh no, upon whom are the judges in them one. Meanwhile, when you take a flawed case to court, do you expect what other outcome do you expect apart from say Master Fawasam Kofi? What is here? And he comes to say, oh no, dear, there is frustration from the judiciary. No, and
even civil society, including Mazda.
Yes,
I would know more frustrating. More frustrating.
You see, if you look at the amount of money we're investing in that office and the outcomes, we have every right to be concerned. What is here?
But he's telling you hindrances are share and don't mean
hindrance in
court to frustrate no.
You see, if you bring a terrible case, you expect the judge to rule in your favor because you are OSP. Is that what you are saying?
But to officer OSP pa betimi akọ court to abra onim so oni case.
Na sisi adapa yi one van court. Later they no catch you. Say oni manye anke nyo no so diko. What has here? Look, near why look, we have a lot to do when it comes to the fight against corruption. Oh, and he's dwarfing the germane issues. Because what Beye says here, the conversation is about you didn't have the right to call Obi fugitive, criminal fugitive, and now fugitive. Says here, what why didn't you take it? And the main issues about corruption, no. At the end of the day, young can want some more. Oh, and it disables you from getting enough evidence to proceed to court. Look,
what if he has already?
Mustafa Hamid, one friend that, one children that. What is here? But you are creating the impression, say, you are seriously investigating Onyaku without even writing to Nipano. How do you expect you see, one fundamental rule in criminal justice is the right to be heard. You are accusing Obise why Bibi Bonnie. And at the risk of, speaking to the issues he may or may not take to court. In the case of Mustafa Hamid and MP in Samsemi, he was basing his case on a newspaper publication. And yes, no now investigation in BBO. Or see there is a newspaper publication our reference 1.3 billion. Now MP Okramu net worth is saying. Nani Baba Akube we are 1.3 billion. 300 million Ghana cedis and yes Kumao. Now cover 1 billion account. And the basis for accusing Nipano said there is a newspaper publication. You have not invited Nipano, you have not invited the publisher to ask about the further and better particulars in respect of KC. What telling us the cases you are pursuing. But you see, if you look at the act talks about disseminating information to relevant authorities. What he's doing is not dissemination of information to relevant authorities, but he's engaged in PR.
Okay.
And there are concerns about what the PR is meant to achieve. And the major
Mate.
What is here?
But
Maminfa we Dominic D. M. You see, Yeka Mami Benonam Yeka
Memo Bebe Nebu.
You see, Yeka I read here once Yeka once and once them no. Neka ahwidi ana nyesa na ka no.
I said the ode ahwidi ebe if you order the once na buy.
It doesn't fit my that
the opposite can here utu akrafo na utu momone for.
Exactly. That this method.
What gambaga etu momo ebu momone ho be wa akra.
Look, what the Attorney General has done is wrong on all levels.
Oh really?
Yes. If you feel strongly about the weakness in the case of the Attorney General, let the court prove that. Let the court vindicate them. Is that simple for me? Oh, because one of it is to fight people who are alleged to have been engaged in acts of corruption.
Simple. And
you are not there to prosecute only one side of the political divide. By dropping these cases against Unkrofi, it disables you morally from pursuing other people. And corruption is not supposed to be fought, but must be seen to be fought. What is here? If you say the current governor and acting governor, the case, what is here? Let that be proven in court. If all the cases, what is here? But Mati said there was an advice in respect of that particular case. He said, the former Attorney General must not pursue. Or say, but they say there is a memo. If indeed there is a memo, then there is a problem. But in any event, you are not bound by the memo anyway. But you could say, well, you want to act with the content of the memo. Would you say we discontinue case? No. How about the others? And your first, you can say, official ejuma was to drop these charges against these people. Going forward, how do you bring charges against other people? And how do you pursue other cases? And the question I'm asking is, are these the only cases he feels strongly the Attorney General does not have?
For now, yes.
For now, yes.
Yes.
There are many other cases of Nkrofo politicians.
Almost and is about discontinue. But for now, the one who know why.
I think, sir, it doesn't help our collective fight against corruption.
Mate.
And look, Hadjini, look, I'm not saying they are innocent or they probably would be guilty. But if you feel strongly about Bibi, let the courts show, say, indeed they have a superior case. But to drop it and dropping it, you know, who share you can say how do you call it? The imagery is not nice.
Okay, all right.
Because these are NDC4, and it sends a very worrying signal. That's just my concern about.
Alice, he didn't sing Ankwanuma, so let me.
Ankwanuma crazy money, because copyright.
Remember, a honorable Fati Abubakar. Nadam for pa na okan ho asem no. Auntie Fati.
Nana.
Yes, madam.
Where do you bonne? Yen starting free special prosecutor ne Honorable Ken Oforiatta. In fact, Mejidi says a special prosecutor, Mr. Kisia Jabin, if he reads the room, he will know, say he is alone in this. And he is alone in this, no, not because Obi Taino. And now say they claim that corruption is fighting him. It is because he is wrong on all levels.
Oh, but so we are fighting corruption.
And well-meaning people, educated people, lawyers, anyone who understands acts. Now they establish Office of Special Prosecutor. No, untimi njina mrebia so emfan support Mr. Kisia Jabe. Niedi kaino. Maminsi asema amebra penyi ekaino so. Office of Special Prosecutor no. It is an anti-corruption agency, not a PR agency. Anti-corruption agency. And as a special prosecutor, wunye nyame. Wutumi ni authority ni na within the confines of the act. They establish your office no. Tumi a act na fa ma no. Untimi mfa bi mbeka ho. The object of the act under section 2 of the act no actually say wo no be corruption. O benya proceeds of corruption. No a prevent corruption. Wadwuma ni nyina no. Enu nti ne fa. And at the end of the day, no, the responsibility is on the OSP to do proper investigation. He has powers to even arrest. He has powers of police. And to so much to so be and for complain and background, we are diligent work to investigate her. He will be able to proceed to prosecute. Now, so we have section 3 subsection 2 of the OSP Act. A check with the system of reporting. As is a successful prosecution, not all recover proceeds. As I said, with the report to come Attorney General's office near the kind near Tosumienu, as I said, with your publications on at least 2 dailies. Any website, naturally, Juma Waye. And even the extent of PR, any what you are expected to say, no, and one random. What is the OSP doing now? Especially in this Ken Oforiatta's case. One, he has peddled falsehoods, and I will prove those falsehoods based on one press conference or and on the basis of that press conference, the OSP should resign. On the basis of peddling his own falsehoods, and the way he went about it was so dangerous that if we allow him to go to bed and sleep peacefully, and well-meaning Ghanaians don't raise any questions about the conduct of the OSP, we are in big trouble. Because Nadia Oforiatta, Ochina Ebeyemi, Ochina na ebedru so, Obi a bejene die.
Me de only me find don't for me fishery.
Dey kind. Mr. Kisia Jabin so declare Ken Oforiatta as a fugitive in the press conference. Me pacho be a fugitive no a complicated obi ntiase. Enti yenko Miriam Webster dictionary or definition of who a fugitive is. Or say a fugitive is a person such as a criminal suspect or witness who tries to elude law enforcement, especially by fleeing the jurisdiction. End of quotes. Honorable Ken Oforiatta, as at the time I offered Ghana, there was no criminal investigation or suspicion, any suspicion or any activity relating to say a penalty. He was not entitled to travel. He walked through the airport as a free man. He notified the then Chief of Staff, Fremont of Paris. Okoyo started the treatment on 22nd January. He wrote to the current Chief of Staff, Honorable Julius Zebra. He added his email addresses. He added the details of his lawyers that should they need him, because he served in capacity as finance minister and later as presidential advisor. Even if there is no criminal proceedings, there may be a time when we hear information be an abibia. Even the current administration, people still reach out to us. Transition period netchem. Then so they believe say obe kind bibi obetime dia boa ama aban no adwuma akoso. They will call you and ask say what kind this process, when they in charge, when the information where you the mai. So he, out of the goodness of his heart, wrote to the current Chief of Staff, Honorable Julius Zebra, said, "Me wa have me condition. Ebi anambe hear me for BB. This is how you reach me." 2 days after that, which is the 24th of January, and Sandra OSP, a letter so invite no, so one brand office for interview or the letter no, ekoja wo the fee. Tieni you, and he can offer us travel for medical treatment in US was not occasioned by any invitational OSP de Breno. Say be a we inviting no so umbra and out adiche ya what is our sorry macha for the bag Jania. Obeka say probably this is the reason enti a wo to kwan. That did not happen. Otro ya so awokoja wo ni fie no lawyer straw. Enye no pe. Omuma Mayo Clinic hospital na wo di treatment no etro. The identity of the hospital on my website, how to read them, the name of the doctor who gave that notice ni bibia de kan home aoje. Oh yeah, what sorry about the press conference. Say who declare no as a fugitive, that there is a purported letter and a purported raid. And the dangerous thing that the OSP said about the raid of Ken Oforiatta's house, I want to quote him. Me paraphrase it. This is what Mr. Kisia Jabin said in his press conference. And I quote, "The OSP did not raid your house on Tuesday, 11 February 2025 or on any other day. Our intelligence, our intelligence points us to state that the purported raid on Mr. Oforiatta's residence was staged, or at best an imposter action, an attempt to court disfavor for the OSP and derail the investigation." What? End of quote.
Intelligence getting cry porous. If this is the intelligence you had, say it was staged.
Or say the intelligence, so one can say what
intelligence.
OSP as an establishment to your mocha intelligence or more you know. Say Honorable Ken Oforiatta, our opposition. A bit ma kwase sa soldier for be se du. E the police ni ba kwa ka ho. Akwachi Owura Richard Japa e de adi anim. E de o matena 4 white pickups mu. Ene ni V8. E de o ma ba bebo awura ni fie. Ama o ma twe pistol. E de awura ne dem. Akosoro akomachi ne man na busuafo asi from. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And this man has said all this and gone scot-free. Or did he know what that? Not an apology, not anything. Even when videos, pictures, surveillance from Honorable Ken Oforiatta, Efie Abba, who those who went there, the majority leader Honorable Ayariga has apologized. Said what happened there was wrong because they knew, say, it was not staged. They knew, say, Ken Oforiatta ntimi nkobo asoja for pa. And the national security operatives are omudimbo mata diemu nipa mienu. Any police ni baako. Any Richard Japa. Awoye NDC ni kuku dam omu security capo kese baako operation. Awo no soja for apamo no so otiminya to me and match soja for the ko robi fee.
If you are not competent to be a soldier, can you be competent to lead soldiers to march them to people's houses? I'm a brave sorry, I would die no wada. Obi a wakochi to obi fi akojina na busuafo so. Oda na wada. Na OSP etimi abebie na no abeka kire Ghana phone nyina say ono no intelligence on can speculation no. Or say the intelligence say it is state or at best a imposter action to cause disaffection for him. Abedi are trying to say, I'm a trying to chiniwiasi afana baby ama BBC. A publish a throwaway at the fugitive tag ato Oruake no Foriata so. Ama international media baby a papa no obiano. Omuni muni oye wo Ghana. Yen born a charge. Yen who Foriata charge sheet. Yen who the bill of indictment. And so ye the fugitive keshire kesiye ato no so e de akoto international media mu OSP mepa achew e say oh mahu footage a chere say in fact it wasn't staged and to we de nipa ye fom me fom as say me ba fati we de wan kan ye misra obeka ni okonsuo na boy hina nipa fom. But for him to have the impetus to be quiet and have any little authority left to say or pursue any action, no, it's just funny. It's unbelievable. On the basis of the intelligence, no, and then the intelligence team no more misleading, no, say there was a staged raid, no. It should have been the basis for him to resign. After all, no one heard footage, no. Because I can offer to be about the power, Uncle Boris in Japan, only to be in opposition, and Uncle France soldier force so buried in the fee. And I think said the military should also take interest in this matter. So OSP intelligence actually say can offer to me boabo soldier for ano the omoba ni fie be ready hot there. They should be concerned.
Indeed, I'm also concerned about my time this morning.
Until my men oh, definitely. I said, be Jabi Mabra. On the second issue,
which is
AG versus former AG. As I say, no, ora nadani okal.
Okay, near day.
Ebi muzo so ora nadani OR Operation Clear All Looters. Because you see, and this nipa de yezupa de prison fatal. Now ye NPP ni dia obodwe. Enti nyame andi e ho afofie. Amma the prosecution of Sedinam Tamaklo a odi Maslok sika e de koma kantamanto ne adwadifo omu dwahye ye. NCA for a prosecute omo, venture capital for a prosecute omo. If the cases had not concluded and enka Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine and Komuni na wamo wasensa mama mutinton time. And there are those who are making arguments say so when to me prosecute within the 8-year period and yeah it is enough basis say one jack case na manunko. Let me say microphone say moya see. Yes, say the wheels of justice may turn slowly, but they grind fine. See, there are some ekoto asenibia. They so temuafo ana temuafo mua. They have the responsibility to exhaust every legal procedure, patriotic you, and go through everything. Because yes, it is better to free 1,000 criminals than to convict one innocent man. Ain't no Obeko court, say High Court or Court of Appeal or Supreme Court. There are several criminal cases that will exceed 1 term or 2 terms. It is because a state no na air prosecute. It is not NPP. And NPP are buying a prosecute you. It is the states. Now state the prosecute are the authority of the state. Our judicial authority though, vested in the judiciary led by the Chief Justice. No, it does not expire with the political tenure of anyone. Now let me read a small portion of the
oh no, the basino.
Okay, only a beja when you have beto later. Into a random lekayine obaye or say Republic versus Johnson Pandit, Siama and 5 others. The Unibank case, the UT Bank case, Republic versus Stephen Opuni and 2 others. Kokrokoo,
Sedu Agongo.
Sedu Agongo also a chum. And yeah, no kwa or say so Republic versus Kwamina Dufour and others. Unibank case and then on course Republic versus Collins Dowda and other Sagleme case no we twam. Or say Republic versus Ofosu Ampofo and another recording no we twam.
Okubuahi.
I just say Republic versus KCL Lato Forcing and another we twam. Say what she be crack and what you twam. And to know we are body drone the yen trying dim. Yes, say $200 million project and the twam. No we are koko. Or no the yen trying dim. Near Wakode ka yachina kwako tu mo ntwam. This is the kind of precedent. A man bufu politicians momo who say there are some individuals that we are pitching to be above the law. And let me say this on record, as mentioned by Honorable Godfrey Dame. Or say under 8 years President Kufuor bedi akonya. Any 8 years President Kufuor di akonya. Not once did we use the Office of Attorney General to discontinue high-profile political cases that border on financial crimes. It never happened. Everything cry na NDC 4 years a president Kufuor the clearing agents, you know, it is either CID and a investigation or mutuemu. It is either OSP, it is either Shraj, and now in some instances a bipartisan parliamentary committee na investigation. And po omoto President Kufuor Adudi. Now we are executive authority na ye de ama omampenya and the authority de ama Attorney General under the 1992 constitution or by and was say NDC need dear and NDC need your minister no discount on Russia because what would it take? Dangerously to lead to a withdrawal. And this continuation of cases na bi ho na nkrofo ntiase nana ye wo mumienu eba withdrawal la so prosecution no say prosecution abind the court na prosecution no boni nkro wie na fe wo kasa asem no menka bi no withdrawal wonim sa asem ye ntimi nsan fa wo court bi o asan
oh sa asem na
ai sa asem na ho ye ntimi nsan fa wo court bi o
okay
ya be akwete ne a discharge o yentimi nsam prosecute bill so onwie ni case e no mo file nolly prosecutor no mo twa so ho e be discharge o ba wonya akwete and then in the future aban foforo na obi foforo ba no interested to prosecutor. And in all these cases obeje di say in some of the cases omo file preliminary objection e wo court I say yeah court no kasa asem no who here there is no case to answer ebi koya kodru Supreme Court and the superior courts established on the records of the court said there was a case to answer. And it is not just limited to the prosecutors at the Attorney General's office who did the investigation. It is not just getting the approval of the AGs to prosecute. Even at the courts omo objections or omo de kwenti yesi a case to answer. Prosecution about in crew. In some instances, even the defense, omo abebo omo crew di omo witnesses aba. Asem ni ye wi aye be summarize abebu ya. O se matwitwa ni nyina mu. Aden o se jachi question de ni jaye because the lawyer for say ono di omo gidi say odibim. Enti omo betima san omo tinti ni ye ntwam. Enti ni aka bebre na wotwam ni nyina no creating the impression in the minds of Ghanaians say we mu de omo ya NDC for no mu di for trodo ye ni gidie se court no ebu atentene ne ya ebebo omo akofie enti we de to me na ye de ama AG's officer obetimi e de amassage prosecution kakra ye mfa yi omo me se adwo amansa oma ho ayemobo na okowie akokọ a ono AG ntwana semu sa wokwaji quick loan ne abeche de wokọ a AG ntwa wasemu o na mo bedi minister dia say aya ne say gidigidi omo suspect say president we ne eche no say ebehye NDC appointees kutupa say oh ye chiri court ye den a ye wo kamafo e wo charge for abey a very dangerous precedent. And say the Honorable Attorney General say there is any precedence of yanya bambi discontinue high profile financial crime and as causing financial losses cases they should reference it.
Mate, Honorable Numsio, why? Dafofro. So what see am fan free into that
when the court dey can be bre when I am dey.
Mate, e ho na ye failed no. Mate ase. Me sabe do say dey teacher into me 2 minutes go wait me abono po.
Minya.
I would have born for one.
Benessa.
Fatine, I think it is
a party and a pay with heaty. They say, John, if you share a crab. My bond was simple.
Okay.
I'm the Asama Yakin ne fapping na corruption do, Yedemia. Corruption as a man you can na office of the special prosecutor na yes the attorney general na semi baka ho ni nara dem robaya ya ba quintia corruption na am the dem kase na record na bede etifu wan kasa what judge there what she sister mo record ya en biara corruption ni ebutina he bibi mo aye ya en biara restate ya he na yerefi ebutum ya reset from the side of corruption and another within the space of corruption ebutum ya reset him on money ebutum akada ya break corruption na nazi I think that it leaves a lot to worry o Sunday say she special prosecutor mo start ozuruko ya na attorney general nominating o man for boy Jesus man for nyan there also be a watch law for so many years. Watch lawyers who the workroom has in our friend attorney general name there is a very best son. But if she and more I was start to root to tea. Which is the in this who be crampono are not so happy about so far ne approach another well wishing Ghanaians and you're happy about it. When you're mama can't na pay there. No President John Dramani Mahama say nankasa ojitum de corruption oye hawa onam do magana fo titiri oto abazeman massively on win this number of votes ozibe ye manpanyin bie okrum ha no corruption komono anka okamankutin Clement okamankutin kwesema nudwum pono it should have been the first issuer of organize the national forum and a dialogue on it. On Sunday, for almost every facet of our life, Ozin can start the economic forum, CCI education, all the sectors I can say now. The fundamental issue are them sectors in a challenge workers see or your corruption.
Mate. Ode mami so wano wa he ya na ya besa to aso da foforo. Pani o ka say we say friend Clement Abeidu. Clement Abeidu eno ye pani a oda Africa Center for Environment and Sustainability ano equality can sense Africa. Atik Mohammed ono so ne penny other mass action for sustainable development ano Mazda. Then honorable Fati Abubakar NJB ano ne swafo a ohwe aman bonsem so. Ene de woye choba una ena oye ne choba kakra honorable Fati ene fam ko choba ho ati ni engodi awza for ha ena no pay so yedemo AC mejamu nyina na mu na mada Dr. Faradis Kennedy Asante say so for Kodwa Asante Stephen Bafo Peter Square Isaac Opoku Pretty Joyce na ya konedu mambia makwafo Dominic Nyanyovo ena na pepra ase efrem na ya okese obetumi afrem the cardinal metremu Emma Ghana's morning voice chairman general Kwame Sefakan Kofi Kumberson ene motra ko mse premo beto me de radio sumdue eje obia unya kwan etie anopei makramo
Best Point Savings and Loans scheme no boama ejumai fo siesie kan kakra